All right, we are making chicken egg bites. They really could be done with sausage, beef, pork, anything you want. But it's a great alternative with less fat because we're not using the yolk. We're going to actually use egg whites from a carton. Okay, so a couple of things that I use. I like to use bell peppers. You can use whatever color you want. If you don't like bell peppers, use a different vegetable. Any type of onion you like. I do have some lightly dried cilantro. This is a great find if you haven't used it in the past. I highly recommend getting it. You find it in the produce section. It's kind of in between where they have the garlic and the tubes of paste, like pesto or basil, those types of things. Okay. And then I like to use restaurant style fresh salsa. And then if you want to add a little bit of extra fat in there, besides the oil that's going to go in the bottom of my pan and the fat that's within the chicken itself, then I like to use pepper jack cheese. Otherwise, if you're trying to cut the fat out because you keep getting over in your fats for your macros, then leave the cheese out. Okay? Next thing. I love this pan. My egg bites typically do not stick to them. And I did get it from Pampered Chef. It is a brownie pan, but it cooks them very equally. Okay? If you use the muffin pans, it's smaller on the bottom and then creates this wider top. And a lot of times your lower half is getting cooked a little bit too long, and then the upper half isn't done correctly. So nice and even brownie pan, highly recommend it. I'm going to preset my oven to 375. Let that warm up. And I'm going to go ahead and grab my chicken. I did take it out of the freezer. It is 2 pounds. I'm not cooking the whole 2 pounds right now. Typically I would, and I would just take that cooked chicken, half of it, and use it for like my tacos or making lasagna or any type of other thing I'm going to use for my food prep. I just set it aside after I cook it. Okay? So we're going to get started in putting this in the pan, and hopefully it's de-thawed enough. Get my pan warmed up here. Yep, we are just right for being de-thawed. So this is probably more than what I'm going to use in the egg bites. But it's perfectly fine to cook extra. And I will cook the rest of this once I'm done making this video. Alright, so we've got the oven is warming. We've got all of our ingredients out. I'm going to start by spreading out the chicken in my pan so it can cook evenly. Then I'm going to chop up my vegetables. I think a lot of this is still a little frozen. So if you like doing different things for food prep, I do have other videos that are on my YouTube channel. I try to do things on the healthier side, keeping in mind that most of my clients are fat loss clients. So it's a balance between getting enough of your protein in, eating your carbs, because carbs do have a place in our world, okay? Your carbs are your fruits, your vegetables, your pastas, your whole grains. Those are all classified as carbs. And then not over consuming in fats, which that's what happens. Too much of one thing. Take the avocado, for example. Everybody loves avocados, and your thumb is the serving size for a female for one meal. Well, that's not a whole lot of avocado. That's 1 tablespoon. We're not eating the half of avocado or the whole thing. So it changes people's minds and quickly how they have gained excess weight, because when you overconsume fat, it gets stored as fat. So if you are eating keto style, that is fat driven. So you can get yourself into ketosis, which is a whole different conversation. I'm not saying one's right, one's wrong. I just have a preference. And trying to teach my clients how to eat quality foods, well balanced, and not cutting any food groups out, because they all serve a purpose. Alright, so once my chicken is done, then I saute up the onion and the bell pepper. So when I actually cook my egg bites, the ingredients are already done. So it doesn't take as long to cook. And they tend to hold their shape a little bit better. So, alright. Get this chicken going here. Phone is pinging off the hook. If you wanted to season this, you could. So the whole goal is when you're making egg bites, you don't want your ingredients that you're putting in with your egg white to be liquidy. So we've got to cook out all of the moisture. Otherwise the eggs don't set as well. So again, if you choose to have a protein, a meat source in your eggs, then you've got different ones and they all have different levels of fat. So just like if you had beef and you went to the counter and it said 80-20, or you had 75-25, all of those numbers are representing the leanness or the percentage of fat that's in the protein source, the meat. So the leaner the meat, the less fat it's going to have. And if you're trying to stop over consuming your fats, it does help. So a pork tenderloin, the tenderloin is going to be less fat. It's a leaner cut of meat. than your bacon or sausage or pork shoulder. Those are all going to be much higher in fat. Your turkey and your chicken are roughly about 7% fat. Your pork tenderloin is anywhere from 6 to 8%. You can get ground beef as little as 4%. That is going to be a smaller amount at the grocery store typically. That top shelf does cost a little bit more. Just trying to get these chunks as small as I can, and then I'm going to add a little bit of seasoning into this. So the process itself doesn't take that long. It's more of the cooking of your items first, and then once that's done, we put it all together and it takes 20-25 minutes in the oven and they're done. Okay, so I am going to go ahead and spray my pan. I like to use a spray oil. This one happens to be extra virgin olive oil. You can get canola, any of them that are a spray. Spray will give you a controlled amount versus trying to pour in and like spread it around. You're going to get too much. I do a little psh, psh, and I'm going to take it over to the sink and do that. So all in all, if I had to calculate that up, that's going to be less than half of a teaspoon. Okay? Less than. All right, so I am going to, what do I want to put in here? I'm going to put some cilantro in here, because even if I make tacos later on with some of my excess, this is all taco driven. Or Mexican style. And I love cilantro. So, the way that this looks, I'll show you here. It's just little granules that are freeze-dried of the leaf. And it's organic, lightly dried cilantro. Holds up in the refrigerator really well. Nice and tight lid. You put it back in the fridge and you're good to go. I'm going to add my salsa to my meat. So that's about 2 tablespoons. Because you got to remember, we've got to cook down all of our liquid. You could put in as much salsa if you wanted to use chunky style salsa instead of fresh bell pepper. You could do that if you wanted. Now I've got most of my water is evaporating out of here, which is exactly what I'm looking for. I love that smell. So, as that's cooking, I'm going to push it all to the side. I'm going to start adding my bell pepper. You could take out your meat, strain it. You can do it however you want. I like to keep the juices all together. To me, it tastes really good then. All right, I'm just going to use a section of this for today. Normally, I would cut the whole thing up and put the extra inside one of my containers, so that way when I go to cook again, everything is basically pre-prepped for me. Take the outer shell off. You can slice and dice it however you want. Big chunks, little chunks, does not matter to me. I typically, if I'm putting it after my bell peppers, I'll make my chunks a little bit smaller because they've already started cooking these half. Good. Still getting that steam out, all the excess from the chicken, which is why I don't put any oil in my pan when I put my vegetables in. All right, rinse this stuff off. Some of this away. Okay. Just waiting for it to simmer down. Cook up. Oven's not quite up to temperature yet. So I've got my oven preheating. I've got the pan already sprayed. And essentially when I go to build my egg bites, I'm going to put a tablespoon of this mixture in each square. I could put more if I wanted to, but I need to recognize how much I'm putting in, because if I'm going to track it, I need to be able to put that in on my food app. Okay, so that way you know the value of what you're actually eating. So once this is a little bit more cooked down, probably about 3 more minutes, then I'm going to fill my tray, pour my egg white in, and I'm going to put half of my egg bites with cheese, the other half I'm going to leave without. That way if I have a day that I want to, say, have something that's going to have either cheese on it or peanut butter, or something that's a fat-driven item, I can eat my egg bites that don't have cheese in them. So that way I'm not over-consuming. It's all about making that puzzle fit. If you're one of my clients, I talk about that puzzle all the time. All right, so I am going to start mixing this in because I am pretty much out of liquid, so I am going to turn this off. And this is such an easy mixture to cook up and use with anything. I can make salads with it, tacos with it, enchiladas with it. Just mix a baked potato and put it over the top. I mean, there's so many variations, and it's so good. All right, get my tablespoon, and I'm going to start filling my pan, okay? I'm just holding this so you could actually see it. That's all I'm doing. So a mounding tablespoon goes in the bottom. That's it. And then we're going to fill the rest of it with the egg white. So you can see how this one pan of meat is going to go a long way for more food prep. Doesn't take much for the egg bites. I'll So some of these that look a little bit less, I'm going to add 4 pounds, got like 1 bell pepper. All right, so this is what it looks like so far. It's just sitting in the bottom. And now we're going to pour our liquid in. Okay, so you don't necessarily want to fill it all of the way. I do about 3/4. You just want to be consistent, okay? So, and pouring from a carton is so much easier. So there's nothing wrong with egg yolk. The only difference that I'm doing this, or the reason why I'm doing this, is to save fat, okay? If I wanted to eat the yolk of the egg and get my fat from it, no problem. I could crack eggs, mix them up in a measuring cup, and then pour them in. Nothing wrong with that. I just choose to not have my fat through an egg. So again, I'm going to put some of my pepper jack cheese on half. And the amount of cheese that I'm putting is like, this is maybe a half of a teaspoon on each one. It's not much at all, okay? Just enough to give flavoring, and that's what we're looking for. Okay. And then I'm going to put them in the oven for 20 to 25 minutes. Again, my oven has been set to 375. And voila, they're going to be done. So as soon as they're done, I pull them out, set them up on top. I let them cool. When they cool, they kind of shrink. And then I take my spatula, which is nice and small. Again, it was designed for brownies. And it fits nicely in there. And I just pop it out, put them in my storage containers. And I want to try to eat my egg bites within 3 days, okay? So all of these I will not actually eat all at the same time within a 3-day span. I'm going to freeze part of them since my husband's not home. Otherwise, he would share these and we would have enough for 3 days. All right, subscribe. Thank you.